Air. We've got a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of snow, but it's mostly just going to be the temperature you'll really notice as we head through Wednesday. A top temperature in Tokyo this time just of 8 degrees. Now, if we see any wintry weather, that's likely to be along the western coast of Japan here further east. There's a better chance of a dry day and maybe a little bit of sunshine coming through as well. Now, some of that cold weather is filtering further south as well. So Shanghai will have a fresher day, no higher than 8 degrees here. For Hong Kong, for the time being, it's actually quite warm. We'll get to around 25 degrees, that's 77 in Fahrenheit. But I think for Wednesday, we won't get above 19. A bit further south, and we've seen torrential downpours in the southern parts of the Philippines. That area of wet weather is now pushing a little bit further northwards. So the southeast, where we saw the worst of the rains, it will be a lot drier here for Tuesday, just more isolated showers to deal with here. Java, though, that's still going to be very wet, even Jakarta. For Australia, the wettest weather here is still in the far north. We've got one area of low pressure there across the Northern Territory and another one over Western Australia. Lots of rain pushing its way further southwards as we head through Wednesday. Heavy downpours here.
Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter. Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter.
2 generations face the past in order to understand the present. A young man embarks on a journey with his father in search of answers. Great changes in China have brought their traditional family way of life to a crisis point. Faces of China, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Leaders are remembered, be they loved or feared. Alone they are inscribed on the pages of history. But what of the men and women whose hands build their monuments and whose blood stains their battlefields? The people who, against all odds, wield the power to reshape history. People in power at this time on Al Jazeera.
In 1984, a new energy company was born, here in Qatar. In 1996, it began production, bringing pride and recognition to the nation and destined to touch the lives of billions of people around the world. Learning quickly from the world's experts, by the end of the decade, we'll be producing 42 million tons of liquefied natural gas a year for markets in Europe, Asia, and North America. Energy that is reliable. Energy that is safe. We are proud of our achievement and technological breakthroughs. We are proud of our people. Most importantly, we are proud of our responsibility to deliver energy to the world.
The Golan Heights, one of the spoils of the 1967 war, home to 20,000 Israelis and source of 1/3 of all Israel's water. But what of the Syrians left behind? With families torn apart and all borders closed, they come to talk to their loved ones across the Shouting Valley. Across the Shouting Valley on Al Jazeera.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines
most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
is the inside story at this time on Al Jazeera.
As geeks take on dictators, bloggers turn dissidents, and social networks root for social justice, governments are going cyber, spying on their citizens, erecting firewalls like iron curtains, and closing down websites. We ask, is cyber-generated change virtual or real? Empire at this time on AlJazeera.
The relocation of the Ahmadiyya has magnified the issue of religious intolerance in Indonesia. Is this inevitable in a multicultural society? And is the government turning a blind eye?
101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera.
Welcome to the News Hour, live from Doha. I'm Anand Naidu. It's 21 hours GMT from Al Jazeera news centres in Doha, London and Washington. These are the main stories. Air attack on AlJazeera. Residents claim the Libyan Air Force bombs an ammunition dump east of Tripoli.
I'm Felicity Barr in London with the latest news from Europe as international pressure on Gaddafi increases.
And the people of Libya have made themselves clear. It is time for Gaddafi to go.
Strong words from Hillary Clinton in Geneva as more countries agree sanctions against Libya.
I'm Nick Clark in Washington, where senior officials are sending a clear message to Gaddafi.
Now is the time for Colonel Gaddafi to step aside to prevent further bloodshed.
The US government repeats that all options remain on the table, and on the top of their list, a no-fly zone.
Banned from travel and his assets seized. Egypt's top prosecutor makes a move on ousted President Hosni Mubarak. Tunisia still in turmoil as another two ministers from the caretaker government resign following a weekend of deadly protests. And sentenced to life in prison, a former security officer from the United Kingdom is convicted of murder in Iraq. Pressure on Muammar Gaddafi to resign is gathering momentum as the international community tells him it's time to go. But the Libyan leader is showing no sign of heeding their calls as he continues to clamp down on protesters in an attempt to quash any dissent against his rule. It comes as the international community meets in Geneva to discuss the ongoing crisis in Libya. Dan Nolan reports.
Panic sets in on a highway near the eastern Libyan town of AlJazeera. Anti-government fighters try to divert traffic after what they say was an aerial attack from Muammar Gaddafi's forces.
There's another explosion in the military. Sweatina military. You can see the smoke from there.
These pictures were filmed by Associated Press on Monday. Witnesses said the target was an ammunition dump taken over by opposition forces. As they wait with rocket-propelled grenades for a follow-up attack, a former Air Force pilot who's joined the rebel ranks made this plea to control Colonel Gaddafi.
Whether it is the European Union or the Arabs or America or even Russia, we ask them to just shut down this man's airspace. We are capable of taking him out by ourselves, but we are only requesting the international community to enforce a no-fly zone.
And he may be getting his wish, with the Pentagon announcing on Monday it's, quote, moving US warships closer to Libya in case they are needed. It's the kind of air power required to enforce a no-fly zone over a country where fierce ground battles continue. This amateur video was uploaded on social media on Monday and is said to show fresh battles at Misrata Airport, a sprawling airbase that each side now partly controls. Al Jazeera cannot independently verify it or another uploaded video said to show the aftermath of battles at the same airport on Sunday. Misrata is 200 kilometres to the east of Tripoli, its strategic value possibly best explained by the huge amount of ammunition left behind. Another key airbase at Benin is now firmly in the hands of the opposition, with all Air Force staff said to have joined the uprising.
The whole base responded to my call to join the People's Revolution. We have great staff. As military personnel, we want to be clear that this is not a military coup. We are not leading anything. This is a people's revolution led by the youth. Our role is to protect and support it. That's our main aim.
Away from the headline towns, it appears that little places too are quietly realigning themselves. This Facebook video is said to be from Zintan. It's southwest of Tripoli, where Gaddafi has assumed control for decades. Dan Nolan, Al Jazeera.
Our correspondent, Hada Abdelhamid, has the latest from the city of Benghazi in eastern Libya, which is now in the hands of the opposition.
People here in the east are really doing their best to try to organize themselves at different levels, whether it's the administration level or trying to bring some sort of normalcy back to the cities here, trying to keep the security very, very tight. At the moment, everything is at a standstill. Schools and universities are still shut down. And people do feel that at the moment they might be at a sort of a deadlock. They don't know how things will unfold, whether the uprising will keep its momentum or whether the violent confrontations that are happening in the west of the country will make many people shy away. So certainly they're here in the east looking at the west to try to figure out what is the next step. Many people here say that they want to go to the west of the country to help out there, but it is a very difficult journey for them. It is also a very risky journey for them. They'll have to go through the hometown of Gaddafi. That means they will have to meet face to face with some of his elite paramilitary forces, which are much better equipped and much better trained than the regular army or the regular security forces. Now, on the reaction to the international community, they have welcomed the condemnations coming from the international community, but they do say that if the international community wants to help, then the one thing they should do is impose a no-fly zone sooner rather than later. That will improve the safety incredibly for the people. It will make sure that it's very difficult for the regime to bring in foreign mercenaries into the country and fly them to these areas like it happened at the beginning of this uprising. So certainly trying to look at what's happening in the country and outside of the country and trying to decide to understand how isolated is Gaddafi at the moment. There is an impression on the ground here that at the moment he is only surrounded by his closest loyalists. That means people from his own tribe, his close relatives, and that would be about it according to what people believe here.
Abdul Fattah Yunus is the former head of the Libyan Special Forces. He renounced his post last week. Our correspondent Jackie Rowland managed to speak to him, and he told her that he wouldn't rule out asking for international help.
It is out of question. We will never receive any foreign troops or accept any foreign military base to be set up on the Libyan soil. However, when push comes to shove, as I was asked, will you be in need of an airstrike? I replied, it will be an alternative solution. If we found no solution is reached from Colonel Gaddafi's side or his aides to put an end to these massacres, all are firm and adamant that airstrikes must be launched, provided no jet fighters will land on Libyan territories. They must land in the Italian Androsa base or the aircraft carrier.
Still lots to come on the programme, including a former British security officer is given a life sentence for murder. Let's go now to Felicity Barr at our European News Centre in London for news of the growing international pressure on Gaddafi. Felicity?
Yes, that's right. Thanks, Anna. And asset freezes, arms embargoes and travel bans are emerging as the weapons being used by the international community against the Libyan leadership. European Union ministers in Brussels have approved their own package of sanctions, and in Geneva, foreign ministers from across the world met at the UN Human Rights Council. Nick Spicer reports.
Behind the concern and outrage, there was also a certain level of surprised satisfaction here on Monday. Without a single voice of dissent, the Human Rights Council had asked for Libya to be suspended and ordered